We're going to start by pulling out these 2 boxwoods. We're also going to pull out this container here that has a Kimberly fern in it, or had a Kimberly fern in it, and then it mirrors on the other side. So let's get started. One of the last things I want to do is to fall behind. Now, the containers over here in this area, I've certainly enjoyed them. They have been up for about a month or so, maybe a little bit longer, because by the time the video gets to you, things have already been in their place for about sometimes 1 to 2 weeks before I even share the video over to my page. But I don't want to fall behind. Come on in here. Let's look at these containers. This one right here, for example. With the wind, I have really been battling with my containers and trying to make sure I keep the containers looking good. A few days ago, I came out here. I watered all of these containers here. Typically, that is enough to keep all of our containers like well hydrated throughout the fall time, because most often our fall is pretty much like wet. That has not been the case this year. I'm at a pivotal moment where I have to decide if I pick between getting caught up or ahead and start planning for my next year's show versus holding on to this year's fall show. Now, in this area over here, it's kind of been a constant tug of war. I'm allocating or prioritizing my time into correcting areas of my garden that fell by the wayside when we were away from home for 30+ days. So that has genuinely been my focus. Now, this area over here, these containers a few days ago were looking absolutely amazing, and they definitely still could go a little bit longer. I could come in, I could rehydrate them, but the work that it would take for me to have to come back and double back. In order for me to do that, I would have to come back in, double back around, and then pull them. So since I'm already working in this area, I'm going to go ahead and just pull all of these containers because I'm getting ready for my next year's show. And so in order to do my next year's show, I got to make sure that I'm able to be laser focused on my spring show. We do a pretty good spring display in my garden. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. terracotta pots. I am going to bring them on the inside. Every year when I start to plan out my spring show, I start to envision what containers I'm going to be using for which area to assist in setting the mood in that area. Now, this is fresh soil that we put in here this year. So I get asked, like in different videos in the comment section, you'll all see me with the yard waste container, that black trash can. Well, that's what we use for yard waste. And so what happens with the yard waste, it is a paid service, but the yard waste is then turned into composting. Because I have a small garden here, I do not have the space to compost. And I still would have to pay for some type of yard waste because I have a lot of yard waste. Now, although in my back garden you don't see any grass, in my front garden, although you don't see any grass in my back gardens, on the side of my homes and also in the front, we have grass. And so the grass clippings, those get put out, and in the summertime that can take up one full yard waste container because how fast the grass grows, how often we cut it, and the size that we like to keep our grass. So in addition to that, you got to think about, now this year in my garden, it was an off year for me. So typically I would have been doing a lot more gardening. I feel like I did a lot of gardening this year, but not as much as I typically would have done because of the hospitalization. And then once we came back home, it was more about, okay, recovery. So with that being said, I have too much yard waste and my garden is not big enough in order to maintain doing composting here. So I just pay for the service. As far as the soil that I use in my garden, you will hear me talk about all the time reusing soil. Now, in this small container right here, I'm not going to allow this small container, this small terracotta pot, to sit outside, so it will be brought in. So the soil that's here, I'll show you what I'll do with it. Come on. And I'll just dump this out. Now do make sure that I keep my screen, and then I just put it, reuse it into my raised beds. Now we'll get these containers inside. I would totally love to hear, do you compost in your garden? Do you have a large garden, or is your garden on the small side? Let me know. Is it in a rural area? Is it more suburban? Tell me all about it down in the comment section. And in addition to that, I would love to know, do you compost? What type of solutions, or how were you at a pivotal moment in your garden to where you felt like, you know what, I should be composting? Because I do feel like that. There was a time when I used to compost before we got to this home now, but with the space and the way that I have things set up, it's just not conducive for me to compost on the level that I would like to compost on. And since I have to pay for yard waste anyways, I just go ahead and go with the yard waste because it is easier. But I do find ways to add organic matter back into the soil, like adding leaves, keeping my soil. I like to leave sometimes the roots that's left inside of the containers. Those will compost down into organic matters. And then I come in and I buy compost and add it back to my soil. But it would be nice if I can make my own compost here, because then I can control what goes in and what stays out. Now I want to head up and I want to check on the hydrangea propagations, and I also want to give you all an update on the hydrangeas that we fertilized together. Come on. Here's the hydrangea propagations that we fertilized together. Now, Can you see how dry this soil is? I kind of keep these on the drier side to help keep down on fungus gnats and things of that nature. And here are the hydrangeas that we propagated together and grew these on. So this is at a later stage. And so you can see how they have progressed since we've came in and we've fertilized them with our seaweed fertilizer. These also are very dry as well. They're light. And so this is when I know that I'm going to come in and I'm going to water them. Right next to them on the heat mat, we have some hydrangea propagations. Now, I took a total of 4, and right off the bat, I can see that one has perished, but if we pull this one out, we can see it has roots galore. Can you see that? So we're going to take this. Let's pull this one. We have roots. And we have roots. So let's bump these up. But before we go to bump these up into the container, I do want to go ahead and water our hydrangea propagations. Now, when I water, I like to use distilled water. So here is the distilled water that we're going to be using. And so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to just pour my water in here. And this is how much the 3 plants that's in here, because it's 3 plants, this is how much water I'll give them. And I'll go about half for the smaller ones. So we'll grab our hydrangea propagations, but then we're also going to grab our distilled water as well. All right, we got to make some room to be able to work. I have so many containers out because I need to do the maintenance on these containers. And so it's easier just for me to just have them sitting here. But then we're going to have to put all this stuff away as well. So let me see, these 2 right here, because I like to be very careful where I set them, because I don't like for my containers to break. I broke one in yesterday's video, but I had a heart attack, baby. It was going to be 9, 1, and 1, okay? It just broke my heart. And because it was part of a collection, that really hurt more, because sometimes with your different pottery, if something happens or you break one, you got a pair or you got a quad or you got a trio, sometimes you can't always replace them. So it just, ooh, when I tell you my soul left my body for a couple seconds and quickly came back in. What do you all do with your broken terracotta? Okay. So we just need a little bit of room to be able to work. All right. So this will do. We'll set our distilled water down for a second. And we'll hop right into this, getting these bumped up. Let's see. Soil is going to be a little bit iffy. We are low on soil, and it totally slipped my mind. I definitely need to pick up some soil. Let's go gather the supplies. We're going to need containers, and then I think I have a soil alternative that we can use. We're going to use some terracotta pots in order to bump up the hydrangea cuttings. Now, we can go in with this wide rim, but we're not going to use that. We are going to go a size down. This, to me, it would work, but they're so far along, I would have to be worried about keeping these watered. So in order to give myself a larger reservoir, we're going to go with this size right here. So we just need 3 of these containers. We'll grab these 3 right here, And this one already has a little bit of patina on it, so it's perfect. In addition to grabbing the containers, we also need the saucer, so we're going to go with 3 of these. Since I have not had a chance to run and get soil, now there are a few different things that we can do in order to make some soil. Like, for example, we can take some sphagnum peat moss here. We can take this, the perlite here, and we can actually make our own soil. But we're not going to do that, so let's put this back. Go ahead and close this up, or at least fold it down so it keeps any type of spiders or anything out of it. We'll push this back. I am going to use some Jiffy pellet refills. Now, this will get us to the next stage because right now our hydrangea cuttings are only inside of perlite. So it's not really getting any nutrients except for what we give it. But also, the most important thing at this stage was to only focus on root development. So we'll grab these and we'll use these to pot up our hydrangea cutting. I have the soil and I also have the containers that we're going to be using. We're going to go ahead. We are going to pop these in some terracotta pots. Now, with my terracotta, if you are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. I love containers, and I know you see these containers sitting on the table right here. Can you see these? But look over there. I just love containers. I mean, I like terracotta, I like resin, I like plastic containers, because I feel like on every level that you use containers on, it's a place for every type of container. I don't turn my nose down at containers, and I'm telling you, it is so easy to get a collection like this. I mean, easy. Your smaller terracotta, these are 3 individual pots. So what we'll do is we are going to take our Jiffy pellets here. We are going to take them now. It comes wrapped in this fabric here. You can just pop the fabric right on the inside of the container and it's going to swell up. And I should have grabbed a tray to work on so I don't have water running off, because your terracotta is going to be porous. Now we just need a tray. Typically, I would tell you to definitely start with a cleaned off tray, but once they get bumped into the terracotta pots, it's basically they have graduated out of their sterile period. So we're just going to come in. We are going to pour a little bit of water in each one of these. And I'm also going to go ahead and just put the saucer on top of these as well. These are going to start to expand. And you know what? I should have actually seen if I had enough soil to make these work, because I would prefer to use that versus these seed starting pods. If I have enough soil, I will go ahead and use these seed starting pods at a different time. But let me fill up one of these containers real quick and see if I have enough soil in order to make this work versus us having to wait for the pods. This is definitely going to be a close call for sure. It's definitely going to be a close call. I'm going to set this container on the ground. Two, we might have enough. Is it enough for 3? Yep, I think we have just enough. Enough to where we did not have to use the pellets. This is more lightweight than the other soil, so we're not going to mix any perlite in. Here's our roots here. Can you see them? I think I'm going to pour some of this out. Here is our best root right here. Can you see that? Worse cutting, but it still has a nice root system. So here's our 3 cuttings. I'll have to make sure I keep a really close eye on the 3 of these because they are in the terracotta. They're not going to stay as moist. And since they've just come from a humid environment, they're still going to want to kind of stay on the moist side until they fully acclimate to being, you know, not in that humid environment. So I'll just make sure I keep them moist. I'll keep the soft syrup underneath them, which will help provide some extra moisture. But I'm going to make sure, which just like this, the soil is completely darkened so you can see that the soil is at the point to where it's how I want to keep them. I also want to make sure that my pot, my terracotta pot, looks wet when I'm looking at it. I'm gonna make a really quick dash because I don't know about you, but when it starts to get close to November, I'm really feeling like it's time to start prepping for Christmas. How early do you start working on Christmas? You put up your first Christmas tree in your house. We're gonna make a quick dash to the store because I need to start gathering supplies for Christmas. Also, I'm looking for a few different things, so let's go ahead and dash over to the store. We're going to make a quick dash into Michael's real quick. I really want to look at these trees right here to see what all they have. Here's a real cute flock. But actually, I think the one that I'm looking for, I do not see it. So let's just scroll through, see what all they have. That's cute up there, but you can make that for little to no money. You're gonna go down this way. And I want to check out and see what ribbon they have. And I am not seeing the color that I'm looking for on either side. So I'll go down this side and then we'll turn around and then we'll go back the other way. So when I go this way, I'm not seeing the ribbon that we need either. So let's see if they have some more ribbon in the next aisle. If they don't, then we'll just try to find it somewhere else. In this aisle, we have no ribbon, just more Christmas decorations here. More Christmas. So we'll keep going back down this way. And let me gaze back by the trees one more time, because I thought the tree that I was looking for, that they actually had it. But I guess this has been a total flop. So it was a quick dash, but we didn't come up successful. We'll dash back home.